This is officially shaping up to be one of the silliest NASCAR seasons ever. How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. A couple weeks ago I did an episode about a lot of the hottest rumors around NASCAR silly season, and it all started when Kurt Busch was reported to be going to Chip Ganassi. That kind of started the domino of a bunch of new rumors that have kind of gotten out of control. And since I made that video, we've seen even more rumors, as well as some big reports, like Kasey Kahne announcing his retirement. That literally happened like a day after I made my episode. And so now officially a couple of these dominoes have started to fall, but all this has really done is open the door to even wider speculation and more rumors surrounding pretty much every team in the garage area, it seems. And so the last couple weeks, even the last couple days, there's been a lot of new reports coming out about certain drivers going to new teams, and I just wanted to kind of make this as almost like an amendment to that last episode, a part two sort of, if you will. But yeah, so let's jump right in because there's a lot of things to discuss. The top story for this episode, and the thing I probably want to spend the most time talking about, is Furniture Row Racing, because Furniture Row Racing is in trouble. You might be sitting there asking yourself, how could the team that literally just won the 2017 Cup Championship, how could they be in trouble? Well, let's go back a few months. A couple months ago, 5 Hour Energy announced that it would be leaving NASCAR, leaving Furniture Row Racing and Truex at the end of this season. This came as sort of a surprise to Furniture Row because all of a sudden about 15 races are now left unsponsored for next season. Not too long after that happened, Furniture Row Racing came out publicly and said that they fully intend on running a full-time competitive Cup Series car next year, which is exactly what they should say, but things get a little more complicated when you look past that. I talked about all this a little bit in that first episode, but I'm just refreshing our memories here. Furniture Row Racing's contract with JGR and Toyota, you know how they have a technical alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing, that all ends at the end of this season, along with Martin Truex Jr.'s contract to drive for them. At the end of this 2018 season, Truex is a free agent and JGR doesn't necessarily have to continue their partnership with Furniture Row. And one thing is for sure, that alliance with JGR has really boosted Furniture Row Racing. They went from being an average team, below average even, to one of the top teams in the garage, really ever since they switched to Toyota and teamed up with JGR. So the fact that that deal is expiring after this season, and that so far there have not been any reports that they've renewed it to this point, they're definitely probably in negotiations, but nothing has come out of it yet, that is suspicious and kind of scary if you're a Furniture Row fan. Because if Furniture Row doesn't get a deal done with JGR, I mean, where else do they go? There's no other team out there that's going to give you the support Toyota and Gibbs are going to give you. So if we look at all these little issues, lack of funding for a significant amount of races next year, a potential end to your very lucrative partnership with JGR, plus the fact that you could lose a top driver in the sport that drives your car, the fact that all three of these things are kind of hitting them at the same time has led to a lot of skepticism and a lot of rumors around Furniture Row's racing team. The big rumor that was talked about a couple weeks ago was that GMS Racing, which runs the 23 car in the Xfinity Series, that is typically driven by Spencer Gallagher but has had kind of a revolving door of drivers lately. The rumor was that that team was looking to actually purchase Furniture Row Racing or potentially merge the two teams together. And from the sounds of it, Furniture Row Racing was interested, and this deal sounded like it was a very real possibility. And now just a few days ago from the time I'm making this video, it was reported that it was unlikely that GMS Racing was going to buy Furniture Row, so that rumor seems to have kind of extinguished itself for the time being. But it was a very hot rumor for a couple days, the idea that all of a sudden maybe GMS would be in the Cup Series, maybe Furniture Row would just go down to the Xfinity Series. There was a lot of speculation there, and who would drive those cars. There was a big rumor that has kind of died down for the time being, but it still leaves Furniture Row in a situation now where they likely have to fend for themselves. Now briefly, before I get into drivers and details and stuff like that, I want to step back and think about how did Furniture Row Racing get into this position? Because it really doesn't make that much sense to me, but let me hear me out. For most of a decade here, Furniture Row Racing's been around since since 2005, I think was their first race. They've been around over a decade, and for most of that time, they have virtually been unsponsored. Furniture Row Denver Mattress was pretty much the only logo on that car for years. And honestly, it wasn't until 2 or 3 years ago when Truex showed up and started running well that they started to actually add on outside sponsors like 5 Hour Energy, like Bass Pro Shops, or Auto Owners, or Wix, and so on. So for the last couple of years, they've been pretty well funded, at least from outside sponsors like that. And they've been competitive, they've won races, won a championship, so it's been a good deal for them. They've been succeeding. This last couple of years should be the best years Furniture Row has had, both on the track and off the track financially. At least from the outside, that's how it seems. But if that's all the case, why are they now all of a sudden in danger of going out of business? Because one sponsor backed out, you still have more than half the races funded. You're still only a single car team, so I don't think you've really spread yourself too thin or anything. At least I don't think so. The only explanation I can think of is, did they lose some sort of funding from some private investor guy? Did some person decide to stop giving them money that we didn't know about? Have they always been this close to bankruptcy? I mean, like all those years that they were unsponsored, but were they really this close to going out of business? Because it just feels like, they were able to survive for 10, 12 years with almost no sponsorship. All of a sudden they got all these sponsorships, they're winning races, they're winning championships, and now they're about to go out of business? Has it always been like this doom, like have they always been this close to falling off a cliff and we just didn't know? Because it doesn't make sense to me. It feels like right now their business should be doing better than ever, but now we're talking about them closing up or possibly having to sell to somebody. Like, this doesn't really make sense to me, but I guess obviously they don't tell us everything that goes on behind closed doors, so I don't know, I'm left here speculating, but it just seems weird. I hope I'm making myself clear. Furniture Row Racing had no sponsor on the car besides Furniture Row and Denver Mattress for more than 10 years, pretty much. And then when they got Truex, they added 5 Hour Energy. They came on to sponsor, give them a bunch of money. They added Auto Owners and Bass Pro Shops and Wix and other companies. All of a sudden, the last couple years, they've been pretty much fully funded for almost every race weekend by outside companies. But the moment one of those companies all of a sudden backs out, and it's only for 15 races, like I said, they still have more than half the schedule funded next year with sponsors, all of a sudden now, things seem like they've spiraled out of control and they don't know what to do. Were they that close to bankruptcy all this time that all it took was one little hiccup like this to ruin them and make them forced to sell to somebody else? It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know. That's all I had to say. I don't know anyone at Furniture Row Racing. This is all speculation. NASCAR, so much of this business is done behind closed doors and they don't give the public that much access to it. It's hard enough to figure out what type of contracts drivers are on. Like baseball, basketball, football, we know exactly how many years Tom Brady has left on his contract. But NASCAR, we don't know what the deal with Kyle Larson is. So it's all speculation, I know. I'm sure Furniture Row Racing has their reasons. It makes sense to them. Something must have gone wrong, or maybe things are doing better than we think. I don't know, but I just think it's interesting. There's a lot of questions still in the air over at Furniture Row Racing. So that's basically a summary of all the issues facing Furniture Row Racing right now. Now I want to move on to Martin Truex Jr., who's been the driver for Furniture Row Racing the last several years. He's really been the driver to kind of vault them into relevance. I mean, he's won a lot of races. He obviously won the Cup Series championship for him last year and looks like he could repeat this year. So I want to talk about what this means for Truex and kind of his options and how he plays into this, because it's NASCAR. The drivers play a big part in all these decisions. Martin Truex Jr. has had his name thrown around a lot the last couple weeks because of these Furniture Row struggles. His name has come up with possibly switching to other teams. Like I said at the beginning, his contract is up with Furniture Row at the end of this year. He is a free agent, so realistically he could sign with any team that would be willing to pay him. Rumors have had him possibly going to the 41 car with Truex Racing because, as was previously reported a few weeks ago, Kurt Busch is likely going to Chip Ganassi, so that seat could be open. And Martin Truex Jr. is a top driver on the market. He's easily one of the top 5 drivers, probably in most people's eyes, in the series today. He's just coming off a Cup Series championship, for Pete's sake. So you gotta believe his name is gonna be thrown around these big name rides. If I'm Martin Truex Jr. personally, I do not sign anything with Furniture Row Racing until they have confirmed a deal to continue the alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. If I'm Martin Truex Jr. and Furniture Row Racing isn't sure what team they're going to be working with next year, they don't even know what manufacturer they're going to be, I'm not signing anything, because that little single car team could quickly fade away very, very fast. And I don't think Truex, it's still in his prime, but in the later end of his career now, I don't think he wants a part of that. So that 41 car is a possible opportunity for him, because it's as good of a ride probably as the 78. But one big rumor that's been discussed more and more the last couple days, I first saw it from Adam Stern on Twitter, is this rumor that Martin Truex Jr. could go to the 19 car next year for Joe Gibbs Racing, with Daniel Suarez potentially moving to the 95 with Levine Family Racing. And at first this seems like it comes out of nowhere, but when you take a step back and think about it, the pieces honestly make a lot of sense. Casey Kane just announced his retirement, and it was already reported, I talked about this in my video a couple weeks ago, that Levine Family Racing is 90% sure that they're going to be switching to Toyota. So with Levine Family Racing, an empty seat, they're switching to Toyota, likely going to align themselves with JGR in some way. Daniel Suarez, I love him, but he has been the least productive Gibbs driver the last couple of years. Maybe he moves and kind of gets bumped to the side a little bit, but he still keeps a cup ride with Levine Family Racing. So Suarez could easily switch to the 95 and still basically be like in-house, kind of like how Jones was last year with Furniture Row. So Toyota keeps their hold on Suarez, and they get to put Martin Truex Jr., a top guy in the sport, behind the wheel of that 19 car and could possibly once again make it a championship contender. This deal makes a lot of sense to me. If I'm Martin Truex Jr., it's the safest deal. It's the most surefire way you know you're going to be in a competitive car for next year. Because if you stay with Furniture Row right now, if you sign that paper today, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. But if you manage to work a deal out with Gibbs to make something like this happen, that would be great. Because Furniture Row, like I talked about at the top of the show, is in trouble, and I don't know what they're doing to manage it, but it seems like they're not doing a very good job, so you might need to just bounce before the ship completely sinks. This potential deal with Suarez going to the 95 and Truex going to the 19 makes a lot of sense to me, but I'll be curious to hear what you guys think, so let me know in the comments. I'll move on from Truex and Furniture Row and all their drama. I think it deserves to be talked about just because they are the defending champion team, you know, but anyway, I'll move on. Switching over to JTG Doherty Racing, I have seen two different sources say that Ryan Preece is going to the Cup Series next year, likely to take AJ Allmendinger's car and drive the 47. One source I read said this is basically a done deal. Another one just said it was a very big rumor, so I don't know which one to believe, but it sounds like this has been talked about. Ryan Preece, those of you who don't know, has been driving for Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series the last couple of years, but on a pretty part-time, limited schedule. Joe Gibbs Racing has a lot of good young drivers, as most of us know, in their system, so it's kind of tough to find seat time for everybody, and a lot of people, Ryan Preece is a little older, but a lot of people seem to think that he has what it takes to possibly run competitively, especially in the Xfinity Series, and maybe even in the Cup Series one day. Craftsman Tools recently came on to sponsor him for a few more Xfinity races this year, so he's gotten some more funding. He's starting to people are starting to take notice of Ryan Preece. And apparently this hot rumor seems to say that he's going to be going to the Cup Series next year, just out of nowhere. Now at first this doesn't really make sense because Joe Gibbs Racing typically likes to hold on to their good young drivers. You know, Ryan Preece is good. I think he's 27 years old, so he's not like a prospect, but he's still very good. And JTG Doherty Racing is a Chevy team, which is in no way associated with JGR. However, where this potentially fits in and kind of connects the dots is I've heard other rumors that there is a bigger team or a well-known team in NASCAR that will likely be changing manufacturers for next season. And I'm not talking about Levine Family Racing, which we already heard the rumors, or even Furniture Row, who knows what's going to happen to them. It's somebody else, and I doubt it's going to be Roush. They love Ford. They're really big Ford people. It's Jack Roush's baby. Hendrick is locked in with Chevy. Gibbs is, basically the powerhouse of Toyota. Penske's a big Ford. I don't expect it to be one of those teams. But with this rumor about Ryan Preece, a Toyota guy, going to JTG Doherty Racing, a smaller team that hasn't had a lot of success, it makes me think that maybe Doherty, JTG, they may be the ones switching to Toyota too. All these teams seem to want in on that Toyota deal that Furniture Row and Gibbs have been going on for so long. Levine, maybe JTG now. This is purely speculation, but it would totally make sense to me if Ryan Preece were to go to JTG Doherty Racing, who then announced that they're switching to Toyota and going to align themselves with Gibbs and TRD and everybody, and then boom, everybody's happy, everybody's feeling good, and Preece got a cup ride. The Ryan Preece going to JTG is a pretty hot rumor that I've seen several people say is very likely. So that one's not me speculating, that's something I've just read and seen from people and it seems likely. Now JTG switching to Toyota, I'm kind of speculating that, but it would make sense given what we've seen, from other small teams and some other rumblings throughout the NASCAR community. So that's all I wanted to say there. Let me know what you guys think. Is Ryan Preece ready for a cup ride? Would he be better off just sticking it out with a part-time Xfinity deal until something else opens up? What do you guys think Preece should do? But I think it's an interesting deal if it works out. Last thing I want to talk about involves the Xfinity Series. I know this show is primarily Cup Series talk. We talk about the Cup race, Cup drivers more than anything, but we do bring up Xfinity Series drivers and teams from time to time, especially when I think it could be tied into a bigger picture that involves the Cup Series. And in this case, it was reported earlier this week, again by Adam Stern, that Noah Gragson, who drives for Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Truck Series, is going to be driving the one car full-time for Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series next season. Now this is interesting because Noah Gragson is kind of a big deal in the Toyota, Kyle Busch, JGR kind of camp. I know he kind of got himself in some hot water with his kind of controversial move at Canada earlier this weekend, but most people seem to believe that he has some real talent and could be potentially groomed into a star one day. JGR has a lot of good young drivers, and Gragson is one of them, but it seems now, based on this report, that they might be giving him up, and he might go to Junior Motorsports. That one car Junior Motorsports has been driven by Elliott Sadler for years now, but the veteran announced just a couple weeks ago that he would be retiring. So that one car is open. There was a lot of speculation about who could take that ride. It sounds now like a JGR driver or a Kyle Busch Motorsports driver could be making the switch over to Chevy. Nobody else has officially reported this. As far as I know, Gragson himself has not commented on the issue or confirmed it or anything, but this sounds very likely as well that this could be happening. And the reason this is a big deal to me is because this kind of ties into the Cup Series, specifically with Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe Gibbs Racing has had so many good young drivers go through their system the last few years, even to today. I mean, you saw Matt Kenseth got kicked aside so Eric Jones could have a seat. Carl Edwards suspiciously disappeared so that Daniel Suarez could have a ride there. And even in the Xfinity Series now, you have Christopher Bell, who's dominated the Xfinity Series this year and has verbally said that he wants to be in the Cup Series next year. He doesn't want to keep wasting time in the lower series. You got Ryan Preece, who I already talked about, and then Noah Gragson, who's he's been up and down, inconsistent perhaps in the Truck Series, but he is a name that people have grown to recognize, and a lot of people seem to think that he has kind of an unrefined talent that could transition into being a star one day. So these are a lot of really good young drivers, and the way JGR currently has their Cup Series roster lined up, Kyle Busch is going to be there forever. Hamlin's still got to deal with FedEx. You just had Eric Jones and Suarez move over to your team, and with Truex maybe even coming in, who knows what seats are going to be open in their Cup Series team in the years to come. That's why there's been a lot of speculation about where Christopher Bell could go, because he's Cup ready, most people feel. He's pretty close to being Cup ready, and there's nowhere for him to go with JGR. It seems like maybe there's a spot for Ryan Preece to go over to JTG. Maybe Christopher Bell could go to Furniture Row if Truex moves to the 19 and Suarez goes to Levine Family Racing. You can keep all these guys on Toyota, so maybe Gibbs will figure it out. But even if all that stuff I just said happens, there's still going to be an odd man out, and that would be likely Noah Gragson. Because in a couple of years, he's likely not going to have any Cup Series rides available in the Toyota Gibbs camp. So if this is actually true, if it turns out to happen, if Noah Gragson heads to Junior Motorsports, I think it's a smart move on his part. Because as far as Xfinity Series equipment goes, Junior Motorsports versus JGR, they're comparable. Gibbs is probably a little bit better, but Junior Motorsports is no slouch over there. I mean, Justin Allgaier's won a bunch of races this year. But looking ahead to your future Cup Series career, I really think there's more opportunity with driving a Chevy, driving a Hendrick car, for sure. With Jimmy Johnson potentially set to retire in a couple of years, a lot of people are already starting to speculate that could be Gragson in 2 or 3 years driving the 48 for Hendrick Motorsports. So if this is true, which comes from a reputable source, it seems like it's a solid report. If this is true, though, Noah Gragson, I think, is making a great decision for his future plans, and we'll see. Time will tell whether or not Joe Gibbs Racing has made the right decision letting Gragson go and not a Christopher Bell or a Ryan Preece. They're keeping those guys, but you never know. Gragson could turn out to be the next big thing. Who knows? Anyway, y'all, that's going to do it for this episode. A lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. This has been one of the most fun summers for NASCAR that I've ever seen. Good racing across the board, honestly, and then all these rumors for next year have just been crazy, honestly. It's been so much to talk about. It's been a lot of fun to make these videos. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you missed my part 1 to this, you can check that out. I uploaded a couple weeks ago. I'll put a link to it down in the description. So thanks for watching that. Thank you so much, of course, for watching this episode here today. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Check out those links down below. You can also sponsor the show like Kyle Hill and Michael Harrison and the rest of our wonderful Out of the Group Patreon sponsors. You can also check that link out down below as well. Thank you so much for your support. You keep this show growing, and it means the world to me. Throwback race is this weekend. I made a throwback paint scheme reaction video a couple days ago that you can go check out if you missed that one as well. But other than that, I don't have much else to say. Should be a great race this weekend. Love the throwback race. Love Darlington. It's a 3-day weekend. All is well in the world right now. So thanks everyone again for watching. Thank you all for the support, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. See you, everyone.